Alright, good morning, y'all. As you can see, we're in the truck. I don't know if you can tell it's a truck, but I'm in my truck, and I've got to make a trip to Advance to grab some stuff. So I figured I'd set up, I got a digital angle gauge to see if I can visualize how much body roll this truck has. Because it has no front sway bar, it's got probably worn out shocks, it's got worn out springs. It's 195,000 miles on it. I'm pretty sure there's nothing has ever been changed on this truck. So we're gonna see. I've got it zeroed. It's zeroed to my driveway right now. So let's drive along and see if we can't see.
Time to schedule a free estimate.
I'm doing 50, 22, 23 degrees. So the truck is about 24 degrees. Alright, so back home, I've got, I think, everything I need to start tearing this apart. So what we're going to do, I've got the shocks right here. You can see there's the sway bar. Got my socket set. I also have sway bar end links. And I have a whole set of new lug nuts. Because if you don't know, this body style of F-150 doesn't have a conical seat for the lug nut. It uses a special type of lug nut. Well, if you look, the guy who owned it before me, or one of the people who owned this truck before me, has taken those off, taken the center caps off, and put a conical lug nut on a wheel that doesn't have a conical seat. So we're replacing all of those because that's dangerous. I've got to check the front end, make sure the ball joints are good, because these trucks, SUVs, vans, all of the Ford big stuff from this era are notorious for ball joint problems. And for this truck, a control alarm because it's got a built-in ball joint on it. Check the tie rods, check all the bushings on the front end, check my brake pads. Yeah, so we're replacing lug nuts, we're putting in a sway bar, replacing shocks. We also got to do shocks on the rear, so front shocks, rear shocks, stable sway bar end links, check the front end, replace the lug nuts. I think that covers it. Oh, if you are like me and you have a gravel driveway and no garage, get you one of these mats to work on. It is meant for a trailer for horses to step on. It's a 1/4-inch mat. You get it. That one came from Tractor Supply. So go to Tractor Supply. It's 48 by 96. It's about $60, and you can roll a jack on it fairly easily. Let's see. Yeah, super easy. Roll a jack on it, and you don't have to worry about dealing with rock getting caught up in it or whatever. Also, if you're putting jack stands, you should always put jack stands under it if you're working under a car or truck. get a piece of wood to spread out the contact patch for the jack strings. If you saw, I was checking on the back side of this wheel because I could feel some play up and down. I wanted to make sure it wasn't a ball joint. But these have a conical bearing for a wheel bearing, and it's just the wheel bearing play, which is a little bit of wheel bearing play is fine. Nothing to worry about. As you can see, zoom in on this wheel a little bit, that doesn't have a real taper for a lug nut seat. You can see where it's worn down from there being a conical seat lug nut on it, but it's not supposed to have it. So these have a piece that rotates, spins freely, and what happens is once you get it tight up against the wheel, just the hex portion will spin and tighten down. If you have a conical lug nut on those factory style wheels, then it's a bit of a safety concern because you don't have the proper seat and what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't have the proper contact patch to provide a good seat, enough friction so it doesn't come loose. So they can come loose very easily. Oh, before I forget, I have one thing that I've got to do, and I've got to check on this truck just to make sure. So these trucks had two different wheel stud diameters, and I've got a set of wheels that I've got to get refinished, or I've got to refinish, and I want to make sure they fit and see what they look like. So I'll be right back. So the right stud diameter, and they're gonna look pretty sweet. Once I can get the chrome stripped off, which I've, as long as it hasn't changed over the past year, I've got a quote of about $300 to have all four wheels chrome stripped off. And then I'm gonna have them powder coated, just gloss black. As you can see, everything in here is pretty original. The rotors might not be, but I'm guessing the rotors aren't. Brake pads look good. There's a spider crawling towards me. The front end check, the control arms and the ball joints were fine. You can see up here the bushings are all in bad shape. And I'm hoping I've got enough space to finagle that shock up in there. Let's see, does that have a Fomoco stamping on it somewhere? I don't know, I can't tell. But like I said, there's no sway bar. That's where the sway bar mounts up. That's the right side bracket. So sit you down. Maybe figure out a way to finagle you in here so I can work. Oh, so the reason we needed to get the silicone spray, this is just PB Blaster or Blaster branded, is these are a thermoplastic. So if you put them in and everything bolts up, as soon as they start moving and flexing as you're going down the road, they're going to start squeaking pretty quickly. And you don't want to get a petroleum-based lubricant because it will pick up dirt and road grime and it'll stick to it and it'll wear everything out a whole lot faster. So just get you some of the spray and spray. You can do the inside surfaces, doesn't matter. The side surfaces, that doesn't really matter, but you want to get on the inside there and then you'll loop it around. If you've got a used sway bar, or you're just replacing bushings, you can usually see where the bushing goes because it'll wear on the paint or the coating off of the sway bar. It'll make it a lot easier for you to locate where exactly it goes. Bushing that is. The hard part's done. I say the hard part's done. These are always a pain in the butt. And by these, I mean the end links. Once you get one in, the other one's a pain. So, if you're replacing these, especially on these trucks, these things are notorious for going bad and dropping out and leaving like half of it in the truck or on the truck on the control arm, just dangling there. Do yourself a favor, get the Moog ones. Part number for Moog is K as in kilo 700536, because these have a urethane bushing rather than the standard rubber one, so it won't deteriorate and just fall off the truck. They also, I believe this is thicker. I do believe. I can't confirm that, but I feel like the bolt itself is a little bit thicker. I'm going to put this sleeve. Show me all this. There. And then you take. Oh, hello? Oh, there it is. Take another one of these. Set it there. Lift your sway bar up. Set it down. And take the last one. And with these Moog ones, one of the washers has the nut built into it. So you just take that and screw it on top. And you'll tighten it down. So you'll get a wrench. I know I need a wrench. Probably get the wrench for the top piece. Make sure we get the right size wrench. Actually, you know what? That's the traditional way to do it, is to thread it up like that. But I feel like the better way to do it would be the opposite. That way, it does vibrate loose. It's still hanging on and then just fall off the truck and onto somebody's car. This one will go under here and start threading on. Yeah, this way, with the bolt or stud or whatever you want to call it going down, if the bottom nut does manage to vibrate loose, then the top or the whole shaft, the whole stud and bolt or whatever you want to call it combo, doesn't just drop out the truck while you're going down the highway and hit somebody's car, puncture their windshield or whatever. So that changes everything. Now I gotta go figure out what this is. For the other side. It's for this side. That one's supposed to fall out. That should be plenty. Now the other one's a bigger old pain in the butt because now this one's tight. And yes, you can do both sides without tightening it, but let's go. Alright. It might be easier, it might be harder, we'll see. Now that the sway bar's not moving, I've got to cut the zip tie off of this one. Squish on this one. That's about right. That should be fine. Sway bar in. So now that alone should make this truck way better to drive. Next up, shocks. We have, there was a Motorcraft stamping, 8045 EB. There's a bunch of numbers on there, but Yeah, it's pretty well wore out. Old busted joint, new hotness. winds today. Truck feels much more planted. I think I gotta aim those headlights. The truck feels much more planted. It's not as flat as I was necessarily hoping it would be, but that's okay. It is still very high up, and it is still a very tall sidewall on that tire. So once I can get the Lightning wheels refinished and tires on those are 295 45 18s. It'll be a much more stable tire. And then I also want to lower it down 2 inches in the front, 2 inches in the rear. Springs and springs, because the old stock springs are a little wore out. I'm about to trip and kill myself. But I did get the sway bar out of my living room. It's been sitting on the floor for, it has to be 8 months, 10 months, somewhere in there. It's been a while. I had it sitting in there. Same thing with the brackets and the end links and the bushings. All that stuff's out of my living room. Also, the shocks are out of my living room. There's a lot to do on this truck still. I've still got quite a few parts that I need to put in. So, make sure you like the video, dislike it, comment, subscribe. As I talked about earlier, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do as far as putting a motor in this thing. So, in the comments, let me know what you think. Do we LS it so we can go to things like LS Fest, 6-liter turbo? Do we go Coyote? I really don't want to do Coyote. Not that the Coyote motor is a bad motor. Not that the Coyote motor can't make a lot of horsepower. Not that I don't even like the Coyote motor. I actually do. I think it's a great motor. Problem is the timing system, the timing chain, and the camshafts. That stuff, when you have 4 camshafts, it's 4 camshafts, and you have 3 timing chains, or 2 timing chains, 2 very long timing chains, and tensioners and all that stuff. It starts getting real expensive real quick. LS stuff, cam in the block, you got 1 timing chain, it's real short. Same thing with the Godzilla. That was the next one. Do we do Godzilla? Do we do something weird and put an RB in it? Do we RB swap it? 2JZ swap? No, we're not gonna do 2JZ or RB. I'm not gonna put a straight 60. It's gonna be a V8. It's gonna be American V8, and it's gonna be something modern. We're not gonna put like a Gen 3 small block or a Gen 5 big block or anything like that in it. It is going to be modern, so really LS, Coyote, or Godzilla. Godzilla's too new, so very new that I don't know if we're gonna, and really still expensive. LS's are dirt cheap. You can get a 6-liter and make 1,000 horsepower for what, 3,500, 4 grand. So let me know what you think in the comments. What motor do we put in it? As for that, have a good one, y'all.